Good day to our viewers. Good day, good day. That's all you can say. Very interesting events happening right now. So we understand if perhaps we don't have your attention tonight because we are also viewing those other events. Oh, wow. So welcome to the Friday Eve version of the Hoodlum Culture podcast. And we're going to talk a little bit about badging tonight and building badges more and how to get those badges to your students without the use of Canvas. On Sunday, we're going to kind of have a part 2 of badging. How do you build this into Canvas? It's not super technical. It's just very specific the way you have to put things in there, and it gets kind of wonky, so we're not going to rush it today. We'll do that kind of in its own 1 hour block, but we're just going to show you how to build them. Some other places, we're going to show you Adobe Spark, but there's plenty of other places you can build these things, webs, and kind of the rationale behind why you want to do some kind of badging protocol in your classroom. The user experience in your classroom being something that should be valued. And Webbs is going to kind of talk to us about that as she rolls through. So also before we get started, the birthday girl is in the house. Webbs' birthday is today, so I would be remiss if I did not say happy birthday to the homie.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Indeed, indeed. So, Webbs, just go ahead and just knock it out. Hopefully, she had lobster rolls today. That's always a good thing to deal. Seafood is one of my favorite things to deal with. We got that deal. But Webbs, we talk about designing. In your class, in your day job, the user experience kind of has to be one of the things that's first and foremost in your mind as you're designing things, you're building things, etc. Can you walk us through what UX means? What kind of questions you ask yourself? You're either asking yourself or asking your users in order to design a user experience that is one that is going to be beneficial, and kind of how teachers should look at themselves more as software developers and less as teachers in that user experience kind of way. I know that's a lot, but rock and roll.
Sure. Yeah, let's see. Well, first of all, in my current role, I don't get to touch user experience a whole lot. But I do a little bit, because one of the questions we're constantly asking ourselves is, what do our customers need? How can we help our customers best? And so, for example, like we have a whole channel in our chat, program where if customers, and when I say customers for us, it means just the people that we serve. So it doesn't necessarily mean like end user paying customer. It's just like other teams that we serve, other departments that we serve. And so we ask ourselves, like, what do our customers need? And we'll go to our customers and say, is this working for you? So when we have this channel where when a customer has a problem, they post in that channel and they say, hey, I'm having a problem with this. Can you help me? So a month or so ago, we had rolled out like a sort of an intake chat bot, right? So when someone would post help in the channel, the bot would respond and give them a list of questions to help us figure out, like, to triage their problem. But the problem was the bot was slow. So they would say help, and then like 3 minutes would go by. And that's like an eternity when you're waiting for help. So we engaged with our customers and we asked, is this actually helpful? Because this wasn't an emergency channel, but when you're blocked, you want help, like now, not in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And it was really like sketch. It wasn't super reliable. So our customers came back to us and said, no, this really isn't working for us. So we just ditched it. We got rid of it altogether. It probably took me like an hour or so to spin it up, and then we tested it for a little while. It didn't work. We got rid of it. So I guess in that respect, I still do kind of touch user experience a bit. In past projects I've worked on, I've done more of like the customer-facing elements of, say, a website or a web-based tool. And for that, you're constantly revisiting with your real customer, like real end user. Tell me about your day. Tell me about how you use the tool that you currently use. tell me about your workflow, explain different things to me. So the user experience is really about like, what is the story of your user's day, of whatever their workflow is. What are the things that they need to have close by? What are the things that they need to have in focus? That's really what user experience is. It's about like creating this positive. Sometimes it's about storytelling. You know, I think Apple actually does a really good job of this, and we're Apple English educators. Apple does not sponsor this, but hey, Apple, if you want to sponsor this, you totally can.
Indeed.
But I think Apple does a good job of this, of like telling a story about a product, right? And how you would use that product. I think about there's a commercial, the whole iPad, what's the computer thing? It's like this kid, teenager, preteen, whatever, going around with the iPad, like doing different things and drawing and whatever. And then they're laying on their stomach and the adult comes in like, oh, what kind of computer is that? And the kid looks up and goes, what's a computer? And so they're telling the story where like the iPad is such an integral part of what you do. You don't think of it as like this big bulky computer. So that is an element of, I think, user experience, is having the story to tell about how flows work for your user. What happens, like sometimes it's about creating personas, like an ideal type of end user that you might be focused on. So my end user, if I'm in the classroom, is like a third grader, because that's what I teach. And that's what I'm keeping in mind. Like, what do most third graders like? What are they interested in? How much information can they handle? When do they get bored? Like, those are all the elements of, like, thinking about creating personas for my job that I think would probably apply to the classroom. I'm trying to think what else. I think there are some overlaps to user experience and user interface. So like what things look like versus like how you use something. But those two things are actually different. So that's something to keep in mind. But user experience is really about like exactly what it says. What is your user's experience of going through the thing that you made and using the thing that you made?
So, how much of that requires you to listen, internalize, and change things when the user says that doesn't work for me?
All of it. Like, your user is your source of truth, and I think sometimes your user may think like they've solved their own problem and offer you a solution, but just because the user offers a solution doesn't necessarily mean that's the best way to solve their problem. So it's important to focus on like what is the user's problem, and then you brainstorm about like how to solve that problem. But you always want to take in like what that user, and I think this is where it's important if you're talking to your user, ask open-ended questions and don't make them solve the problem, I guess, if that makes sense. So like, you want to hear and collect information about how they're using something, what they're doing. What you don't want to say is, how can I make you a better barflagel or whatever? Like, that's not what you need to know. You need to know, like, what is the problem, and then what are the pain points around that problem, and then it's your job as the designer or the software developer or whatever to solve the problem, not to make the user solve the problem. Does that make sense?
So, essentially, we don't want to ask leading questions. We want to ask questions that allows the witness to tell us the story of their experience, listen to the story of the experience, and then create the solution or help them solve that problem by offering them a solution for it, is what you're saying.
That is correct. That is spot on.
All right. So, in the grand scheme of things, this is, again, why we continue to harp very, very much on utilizing, if you build your lessons before you go into the classroom and use the time that you have for live lessons as the opportunity to essentially assess your users and say, okay, cool. Last night, Mr. Lane created this video that walked you through how to build a slide deck from scratch using XYZ program. How many of you had a great experience with that? If 3 hands out of 30 go up and all 30 of them did it, okay. I got some questions for the other 27 folks. What was the problem? Were you drunk? Did you drink too much apple juice? Did you throw things with your brother and sister bothering you? Like, what's going on? Like, all right, cool, Mr. Lang, it was very difficult. It was too long. It was, and it's, I think one of the things that teachers you have to deal with, and I have to suppress this on a daily basis, is your ego has got to like be a backseat driver in a lot of ways, because if you start to have if you start to perceive that how dare this 7-year-old tell me how to do my job, and you start taking that personally, then bad things happen. But if you say, okay, cool, I thought that if I did it this way, that everyone would be able to access it. And then people say, no, we couldn't access it. And you even have like your number one all-star kid saying, nah, didn't get it. Then it is not them, it is you. I need to change my product so that my user, the person that I want to be successful, is successful. And that's kind of to reference the current foolishness that's going on YouTube with the school district. A lot is being said about mental health and kids' mental health at this point. One of the things that's not being said is us listening to our user and saying, user is saying too much. This doesn't make sense. It's too much. And we're saying, nope. We're going to keep giving it to you. And then we're going to, opening school is somehow going to solve this problem when no, we could solve the problem right now. And a lot of the mental health issues and the breakdowns and things that students are experiencing, we could be avoiding if we simply if we spoke to the user, not at the user. Webs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was going to say, I actually have a related story. So when I was doing my training over in India, and one of the things that we had to do was we had to create an app and do wireframes of the app. And then we had to do user experience testing. So when you do user experience testing with wireframes, you don't get to say anything. You get to give your wireframes to a person who's never seen them before. And that person has to think aloud, basically, to use the teacher term. They have to think aloud and talk to you through what they're doing and why, which includes things like, oh, I don't understand why. Like, is this a button? Why is this here? What am I doing with this? You are not allowed to comment. You can't ask questions. You can't say anything. You can't guide them. You can't help them. So you're sitting there with these wireframes that you've invested several hours in building. You have all your buttons, you thought about it so hard, you were like, this is your baby, it's going to be amazing, you're going to hand it off to this person, they're going to go, this is the most amazing application I've ever seen, I can't wait to see it, like in action and whatever. And then you give it to a person and they're like, where do I start? I don't understand any of this. And you can't say anything. And you want to say, like, you idiot, it's so clear. How could you not see? And I feel like that's the ego thing, right? So if you've ever done that exercise, that frustration, you get that frustration. And also, that's kind of the way it has to be, because you aren't going to be next to that user guiding them through how to use your app. They download it from the App Store, and they better be able to figure out how to use it. Otherwise, they're going to delete it right away. And I think the same applies to a lesson. Like, you may have put your heart and soul into that lesson and think it is the best lesson you ever wrote. But if you give it to kids and they think it's boring and atrocious, and your first instinct is to blame them and that they just don't understand, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they don't understand. It doesn't matter if they don't get the art that you made. Like, they are your end user. They're the ones that it matters to. They're the ones whose opinions count the most, whether you like it or not.
Facts. And also the fact that that's why it's important to talk to them and say, okay, you like Roblox. What Roblox games do you like? This, and that. Let me go play this game and understand why this thing is so attractive to this kid. So perhaps I can take elements of this game and make sure those things are woven into how I teach. I mean, the Among Us thing, it's huge. If you've not played Among Us, go through. Even if you suck at it, it's great for the experience, because fundamentally you can do that in your class very, very easily. It's just two people don't belong here. Two people trying to, like, I know if you have a GymKit subscription, I know the developer of GymKit right now is adding an Among Us function to that product. He's been tweeting about it for the last week. So if you're not on GymKit, or your teacher isn't on GymKit, that's one of the things to kind of push towards. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be moving toward that situation. And one of the things that's Very interesting. Today's question, I start my classes out with questions for the students every day. And because the Xbox and PS5 just came out, the question was, what's your favorite game? Was that one game that you would be like, hey, yo, everybody needs to play this game? What would that game be? And most of the kids, when they responded, and this is K5 today, they play games to play with other people. They don't really care if they win or lose. That was generally the scenario. I play with my brothers and sisters. We 1v1 people. We do X, Y, Z. And so that's also kind of something to kind of keep in mind. I'm assuming my students are not atypical, that your students are going to have a similar bent to them. Are there very competitive gamers out there? I think that's absolutely true. But I think most students game to be close to, I think most humans game for that reason. I game to play with other people, to compete with people, to have some kind of social experience beyond myself with someone in India or Canada or Texas or wherever they happen to be. And that's where the octalysis and the webs, I'm going to have you kind of just talk a little bit about octalysis and whatnot, the octalysis framework. But that's where the octalysis comes from, and that the idea that games help us become more connected, help us become more self-aware. They help us to realize that we need each other. I don't think that people look at games that way. But again, I'm big into World War Z right now. So if anybody's playing World War Z on Xbox, I probably will play about an hour or so tonight. But it is the co-op game is for people, and if one of the people is not there, they get taken down by the zombies. You got to go back and save this person because you can't advance without everybody getting to the certain places. And so it forces you to kind of reevaluate your humanity and say, okay, cool. If I have to go and make sure I sacrifice myself for this person in a virtual world, why wouldn't I do that in real life as well? So it makes you kind of, the idea about your morals there. So in terms of respecting a badge, Webs, badging is a part of the octalysis framework, or it's referenced in the octalysis framework. Can you kind of talk about what Yukai Cho kind of looks at, how's he frame badging as this important piece to deal with in the classrooms?
So if you haven't seen the octalysis framework, and I know I mentioned this before, I think it's one of the best books I've read in terms of like application to understanding human behavior. And human motivation as well. And I think this applies not only to classrooms, but also to workplaces. And once you read the book, you start to see the elements of the octalysis framework everywhere. So like you just mentioned, you're a crew of people, people connect so that they can make meaningful connections with other humans. That would be the social influence aspect of the octalysis framework. So going on group quests, having a brag button, having mentorship. So you mentioned in last week's podcast about, grinding and how you can have like more experienced players who then mentor less experienced players and how to walk them through different things. So that's all falls under social influence. The other elements, and 4 of the elements, there's 8 elements later, octalysis, octagon, 4 of them are like sort of negative or like they take things away. 4 of them are more positive. Sorry, just making sure Kovacs isn't eating my chair. So the other ones are empowerment, meaning, ownership, scarcity, avoidance, and unpredictability. There's also accomplishment. So badging would fall under the accomplishment item, I guess. Element? I'm going to say element. Accomplishment, or badging would fall under the accomplishment element. So like having a quest list or a progress bar. Those are examples, or even boss fights. We talked about boss fights last week too. Like having that one big boss at the end that you beat, that would be accomplishment. Another example outside of video games is a site called Nerd Fitness, which I happen to use. Again, not a sponsor. I just happen to like the way that they have some things set up. But they have like these different quests that you can beat, and the whole idea is like to build up your fitness by accomplishing these quests. So that would fall under the accomplishment piece. I think another one we see a lot of is ownership. So being able to like customize things. How many games do you know of that has some sort of customization feature? Either you can create a character that looks like you, or you can get special armor. Like Animal Crossing does this. Like what? You can customize all kinds of things. Scarcity is, you know, you can only get this thing at a certain time of year, or you can only get, there are only so many out there.
Pumpkin stuff.
What?
Pumpkin flavored stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good example. So like seasonal flavors of things, creating that artificial scarcity, that is an example of motivation, because everybody gets pumped for pumpkin flavored stuff in the fall because you don't see it as much the rest of the year. Avoidance, so not having to lose things. I think about Sonic the Hedgehog and how when you get hit by a bad guy, you lose all your coins and you have to quick run around and collect them. That's an example. Any kind of like FOMO that can happen, which ties in kind of scarcity. Those, I think about, like, again, in Animal Crossing, like certain insects and things that you dive for, you can only catch at certain times of the day and certain times of the year. They run different contests, like there's a fishing contest and a bug catching contest that you only catch, I think, once a month or maybe once a quarter or something like that. Unpredictability, so when things randomly pop up that you can catch, Easter eggs, random rewards. That's another element of the Octalysis framework. Empowerment, being able to have like special mission unlocks and boosters that you can get, like in Mario Kart, where you can get like the golden mushroom or whatever and go super fast, or even just regular Mario, where you get like the mushroom thing or the Tuki suit or whatever. And then the last one is meaning. So meaning is like, you know, there's some sort of narrative, there's a story, there's some bigger purpose that you're trying to work toward. That would be the meaning aspect of things. You can build things. That would be another, the last one. But badging specifically fits under accomplishment. And I think one of the keys to badges is you want to be meaningful about your badges and not just throw them out willy-nilly. And you can tie those in with maybe some of the other aspects of the Octalysis framework, like scarcity. So, okay, you can only get this badge this week. You can only get this badge for this particular thing. You just have to be careful not to overuse certain things, because then they kind of lose their shine.
Facts. And I mean, if you're not a gamer, that's one of the things I think you should pick up in the COVID world. Like, it doesn't have to be hardcore things. It could be just phone games or whatever. And you'll see very, very quickly how they use badging and achievement to keep you playing the game. Right? One of the reasons I play Xbox, all my Xbox friends, every month there is a leaderboard of who has the most points, right? And you want to be in the top 5 or whatever, so you grind another hour to beat somebody else. The other thing is, like, don't even think video games. Starbucks, right? You get the little stars for every coffee you get. When you get 10 coffees, you get a free one, right? I'm forcing you.
Sometimes they have special challenges where it's like, oh, if you get 75 stars by this date, then you get some bonus. That's also the same behavior modification. So,
in the grand scheme, the world works this way, right? I'm dangling some carrot in front of you to get you to run faster and farther, to expend some energy that you wouldn't otherwise expend. And badging is a way that is already in your students' vocabulary. These are people who already play games. They receive achievements. Understand what those achievements are. I mean, just for another personal situation. So I'm playing World War Z. There are different classes of fighters. And so I have 2 of the classes of fighters maxed all the way to 30. I cannot max them past 30. So what does it encourage me to do? Choose another fighter and max it all the way to 30 as well, because I can't achieve any more of this. But I'm maxed out, and now when I'm ripping through zombies, it's like not even challenging anymore, because I got the top weapon and I've got multiple drones that I'm shooting at or whatever. Now I want to go back to where I have the little pea shooter gun, and that struggle, it encourages me to go back to the struggle to ramp myself all the way back up again. If I'm badged, if I'm rewarded, if I'm given those opportunities, then I will be motivated to go and perform for you. But if you just expect me to do my job, and again, think of any job you ever worked. If somebody just comes in and you just do your job, I don't care how much you pretend that you're motivated. I give 115%. If no one is watching you do 115%, how long do you give 115%? If no one says, hey, Webbs, you are Employee of the Month this month because you achieved XYZ. Suddenly, my work wasn't in vain. Someone saw that and rewarded me and said, hey, Webbs is a great worker. And so I'm going to work harder some more because I want to win that Employee of the Month award again the next month. Webbs.
Apple Watch. So they do monthly challenges, and that would be scarcity at work. That is badging. you know that that's coming. You can add friends. So that's that social influence piece. You have that little bit of competition. So there's a little bit of like avoidance. Like, oh, I don't want to be the bottom of the list. I want to be at the top of the list. Scarcity, because you can only get certain badges for the month, and then that's it. If you don't get it in that month, then there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, all of those things are built in every. Also, employee of the month. That's an example of badging, basically. Like,
look, Mom, look what I did.
Leaderboards are also accomplishment pieces.
Look what I did, Mom. I'm employee of the month. Aren't you proud of me, Mom? I got my plaque. So building badges. If we're talking about classrooms and how classrooms run, building badges, the building of the badges isn't difficult. It's deciding on what behaviors to reward, which is the one that you need to think about a lot more. What are you rewarding? Why are you rewarding it? And what are you calling that reward? And I think that is where paying attention to marketing. So if you're a teacher, you only read teacher books, stop reading teacher books. Read advertising books, read architecture books, read engineering books, read books about fishing, read anything other than books about teaching, because you get enough of that. How do other industries reward people? And again, I'm a gamer, so I like the instant feedback of video games. I like the instant badge. I like the fact that even when I lose, I get a badge. For example, they'll say, you were blown up 100 times by the bomber. That's not a good thing, but it gives me a badge for it. It says, hey, that's something that happened to you, bro. Cool. So even the things that would be infamous, I still receive some kind of, like, I guess, slap in the face, credit for, whatever. So looking at your curriculum, what behaviors are you trying to ensure your students achieve? How can you encourage those behaviors with a badge? What can you call those behaviors, and what is the criteria of those behaviors? So it's not just, I'm like Webb's kind of mentioned, I'm just not going to give you a badge for showing up. Like, what would you have to do at a modicum to gain this badge? Like, for example, I don't really care about you being a podcasting master right now, but go ahead.
I have to step away for just a second.
No worries. If you were talking about, if you're thinking in your classroom about, like, you're introducing a subject to students and you just want to get them to try it, giving them an opportunity for a badge simply for trying something is a good thing. Great, your first podcast, your first attempt to do fractions, whatever, and then building in different levels of that badge as those students progress. So, beginning podcaster, podcaster 1, podcaster 2, podcaster 3, master podcaster, something crazy like that. So those kind of things are I don't know. Those are kind of things that I would be thinking about. Kind of creating gradations there, but really sitting down and saying, what behaviors do I want to reward? What is the curriculum that I'm teaching? And kind of leveling those things up. Webbs, you good?
Yeah, sorry. My brother called me and I was panicking because it's late there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I hope everything's okay. Because, you get older, your grandparents are older, you start to worry about those late night calls. He was just calling to say happy birthday. Okay. He doesn't go to bed at like 8 o'clock like I do.
Okay, well, I mean...
Shout out to my brother. Thanks for the call.
Indeed. The other thing that kind of, when Webbs was talking about like Tassa's thing, just to go outside again, this book here, can I get it in focus? Can I get it in focus? Yes. So Meeples Together is a book about why cooperative board games work. It's a very interesting book. Now, I'm not a real board games person, but when I saw the title, I was like, this is really interesting. Cooperative board games is interesting. So, Meeples Together is by Christopher Allen and Shannon Appelkline. And
it really does say Meeples.
Meeples, yes.
I thought I was mishearing that.
Meeples Together. So
not like the dude from Perfect Strangers.
No.
Where they were used from. Okay.
So, the book I bought because I backed one of their things on Kickstarter.
And of course you did.
And I bought the book because it was like, hey, we have this book that talks about our process. And going through the book, it was like, this is very interesting. Like, thinking like a game designer would very, very much benefit teachers, because I think, unfortunately, we think in very short bits of time, even though we have 180 days. So, and I think one of the things I was very, very much guilty of when I was in the classroom with my own little tribe of people was, we got to cover this. We got to cover this. We got to get through this. We got to get through this. Nah. Even when I did that, we never got to all the standards. And we never got to all the standards in a quality way. And we left kids behind because they couldn't keep up, and you got an F and all that. So it was not all those kids in the past. My bad. Hopefully, like, I didn't screw you up too much. If you need some money or something, I don't have very much, but I'll see what I can do. But Meeples Together, great book. It's about cooperation and cooperations through games. So it's really kind of showing how game design can be a cooperative experience. Dope book. So let's take a look at some tools that. Oh, before we get, Webs, you got anything to add?
I was just thinking about how one of the things we talked about last week, I think, was about modules, like building modules in Canvas. And I think modules would also fall under that accomplishment phase, because it's basically progress. So seeing that you're building towards something and that it's part of something greater. There's just so many, when you start looking around, there's just so many places. Anything that has you share on social media, that's that social influence piece. So you find elements of Octalysis freaking everywhere.
Facts. So let's do like a basic walkthrough of some stuff that you might want to deal with tools that you already have at your disposal, that you probably are already familiar with. You're familiar with from us talking about on this show over and over and over again. So the Adobe stuff, I start with the Adobe stuff because next to Google is kind of like, you can't really do a job without having some kind of Google understanding. To me, you can't really design anything without having an Adobe understanding, and exposing yourself and your students to Adobe as early as possible is going to benefit them in the 21st century ways. It would be the same thing to me as, again, making sure your kids know what Gmail is and how to use Google Drive and whatnot. What say you, Webbs?
I want to point something out. So long-time watchers of the show have probably seen us go into Adobe Spark. You've seen Mike build logos before. And I just want to point out that the recipe for it is exceptionally simple. Like, the recipe for creating something that is circular shaped, that looks pretty, is just an icon in the middle surrounded by words. That's it. It doesn't even have to have colors or any. It can just be black and white, or it can be blue and white, or black and blue. You can pick two colors, have the text be one color and the icon be a different color. Boom, you have a badge. It's that easy. Simplicity.
And my thing is, keep it as simple as possible. There's no reason to go and try to make something very complicated that you can do. Like, literally, we're going to do this in like 2 minutes, right? All you need is what my badge is going to be called. And what could be an icon that represents that badge. That's the only two things you need. If you want to go and become Pablo Picasso, by all means, you could do that. But you can literally build badges. You could you could factory model build badges in an hour. You could have 3,000 badges if you needed to, just with the idea that I just need to know what it's going to be called and what it looks like. And the icon, rather, that I'm going to use. All right. Adobe Spark takes care of everything for you in terms of stylizing it and whatnot, especially if you took our advice from previous shows and kind of built your own brand in there. And if you're a CCSD teacher, you have access to all the branding elements. So you can build your own little logo, your own brand colors, and build your branded logos that you can keep in perpetuity. So every year you just recycle those bad boys. Now, how do we build this? So this is just human calculator. Great. Perhaps as a kid that can do 5 math problems with no errors or something, and that's going to be the criteria for this deal. You're a human calculator kid, cool. Maybe that's human calculator 1. Human calculator 2 is you solve 2 fraction problems or 5 fraction problems with no errors. Human calculator 3 is you showed a friend how to do the fraction things. You can just go and just use the same iterations, and perhaps You simply change the color of the badge for the different oriented, and that now you solve that other problem, right? The different gradations of the badge. The black one's gonna be the base one, red is gonna be level 2, green's gonna be level 3, and the gold's gonna be level 4 or something like that. I don't know. So
karate.
Indeed.
Karate belts are leveled.
Indeed.
And here's another fun story about how I get sucked into this stuff all the time. So when I was living in New York, I was looking for an activity, and I really wanted to do hand-to-hand combat, and it just so happened that there was a karate dojo right near my apartment. But one of the big reasons that I wanted to get into karate was because I wanted all of the belts. I wanted every color belt. I wanted all the little lines on them, or however that works, whatever. And it was, as a matter of fact, October 31st, 2018, I do believe, when I got my orange belt in karate. And I was so ridiculously excited as a 30-something-year-old woman who had just gotten her orange belt in karate. And I was thrilled. You can ask my best friend. Like, I was so pumped up to get this next level of belt, which, like, most children get when they're, like, 5 or something. But you are not gonna yuck on my yum. I was so excited. So this stuff really, like, it seems like such a small thing, but I had to put in so much work and pass a test to get that belt that meant something to me. And I think that's one of the things you have to consider when you're making these badges is, it has to be something meaningful. It has to be something that they work a little bit for. It has to be just challenging enough that it requires a bit of work, but not so challenging that it feels out of reach.
We're also leveling the challenges so that I experience some level of success as I'm going up that mountain, right? So that little bit of success gives me the motivation to go to the next rung of that ladder. So we don't want to destroy somebody's motivation. Go ahead, Webbs.
And I think, too, one of the things to take from video games is at the very beginning, everything is easy and you rack up stuff really fast. And as you advance in the game, then things are fewer and farther between. But when you first start out, they want to give you all that positive reinforcement to get you to keep playing. So don't hesitate to front load a little bit and then make it a little bit more challenging as you go on to achieve badges.
Facts. So
like, you usually get a badge for, like, oh, you signed into the game. Good job. Here's a badge. Oh, you visited the village. Good job. Here's a badge. Oh, you found a shirt. Good job. Here's a badge.
Indeed. And those things make you happy, especially when you're not very good at the game at the beginning. So,
slot machines. Slot machines are a good example of that randomness or unpredictability, right? That's part of the reason people play slot machines is because they're unpredictable. You don't know when you're going to hit the thing, so you keep playing because you want to get that point where you hit the thing.
So inside here, we're just going to do something like really simple and straightforward. We're not going to do any like, oh my goodness, you have to be a professional, anybody do any of this stuff. So these are 5 that I put together literally in 5 minutes. So a minute a piece. All right. And once you get really good at this is how the kids do their logos. This is how our kids do like literally everything. So I'm going to do this, and I think Webb's going to time me.
I'm going to time you.
Watch how simplistic this is. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to that plus sign. I'm going to custom size graphic, social post, Instagram post. You can use any of those, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to click there. Great. And I'm going to do a award about some kid who is a writer. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to find my icon. I'm going to say, let's go at ink pen. Great. I'm going to take that. Ink pen is there. I'm going to change the color of said ink pen. So that is going to be black for me. So let me use black. Great. I'm going to resize that. Move that so that's in the middle of the screen. 1, 2, 3. Down a little bit. There we go. It's in the direct middle of the screen. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and add some text. I love just the circular text that's already built in here. So either that one or that one. Take that. Move it around. Bada bang. I'm going to say Shakespeare Jr. Done.
Wow. 45 seconds.
So, ain't got to be no long process. But icon, text. Done. Now, once we get it from this point, I mean, you can make some additions. You can take that and move that around a little bit or whatever. Great, fine, dandy. Change whatever you need there, but I've got that. Now, what I want to do is then the most important part of this is taking this, and when you download that file, you're downloading as a PNG. You want the best graphics possible for this. And you're also, when you start the download, that start download button, you're going to go to where it says transparent with no background on that whatsoever. With that nice circular, that's why I make mine. I don't know why I have this like penchant for making things circular, but I like circles. Circles are very aesthetically pleased to me for some strange reason. So I like mine to be circular. You may be at squares or diamonds or whatever it is.
I like hexagons.
Hexagons
are the bestagons.
So the transparentness is going to allow that to be placed with no background onto kid's website, on a Google slide, on whatever. So I'm going to hit that transparent deal there, and I'm going to save that. I'm just going to put that, I have a little badge desktop thing there, and I'm going to say Shakespeare. All right, cool. Wonderful. So that's one way to do it. Another way to deal with this, that's not that, if you want to kind of just think outside the box just a little bit, go back up here. Again, I use the custom side. You can use any of these. Because you're saving them as transparent, it does not matter what the size is at all. So I use a social post in Instagram because I like the square, the fact that it's 1080 by 1080. So I'm going to click that and hit the next button. Now, say you want to have a situation in which you're like, hey, I want a background on it. There are plenty of backgrounds. So if I want to have a situation in which it looks like a banner, it looks the banner that way. I want to have a square in the center. I want to be gridded. You can do all those things too. So if for some reason you want to go like really hyper, you can do that. I don't do that at all, and I can get it done in 45 seconds. I think even when with the kids, when you first show the kids how to do this, it takes them maybe 5 or 6 minutes, but that's because a lot of the pre-work they don't do. So a lot of the brainstorming that I walk them through, a lot of kids are like, hey, I'm just going to come there and make it up as they go. So one of the things, again, to think about before you come to Adobe Spark is what exactly am I going to be assessing the kids on? What kind of behaviors am I going to be rewarding? And have that list where you just go through the list with the icons that are necessary. It'll be a lot easier to deal with. The other thing that you have here is there are some designs that are already built. These are more social media post type things. So I generally don't use those. I generally just use the icon and the text. I don't do anything else. You could also logo brand them. So if you had your logos and stuff built inside there, you could logo brand your deals if you wanted to, which is totally cool. But why make something uber complicated? Text, icon. That would be it for your boy. Now, if I want to go and add something else on there, perhaps a shape or something like that, if you go to icons and you type the shape, so say if I type the word circle, I have circles there. So if I want to use that circle kind of as a border, I can utilize that as well. Make that black and then come down and add my icon there. Oh, not drag run. So now I've got something kind of to put that in the boundary. I can move that in a little bit. Change the colors of that thing. Add my text. I'm again going to use that circle there. Again, I love that circular idea there. And that fits very nicely. So if you want to go kind of upscale a little bit, take a shape, put the shape out there, and put your text around it. That's upscaling, and that took maybe another 40 seconds or something like that. All right, great. So that's there. It looks really pretty. The kids couldn't tell you that you did that in Adobe Spark, and Adobe Spark did like 95% of the work for me. It's going to look very professional. Oh my God, that's really cool, Mr. Lang, whatever. And you can kind of like flex, despite the fact that, again, Adobe Spark did 95% of the work. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, PNG, start download, transparent PNG. I'm going to go to that desktop. I've got it, that badge of folder full of badges. I'm going to just call this a dragon. Awesome. Excellent. I'm going to kill those two. Now, you can also use Canva to do this. The same kind of deal. Let me not say I don't like Canva. Canva is really cool, but Canva exists in an environment that is not, it's like using Yahoo to do your email, right? It still works and whatnot. But in terms of the ecosystem around it, it doesn't exist. And so, not that I wouldn't show a kid you can use Canva, but showing a student how to use Adobe Spark, to me, has down the line a lot more feasibility and usability for them. Totally could be wrong on that, but that's how I look at it. But you can do the same thing here. Create a design. You can start with the custom dimensions, or you can do an Instagram post or any of these things you have here. Flyer, poster, doesn't really matter. I'm going to use whatever. Poster. All right, great. Same deal here. It's totally blank here. There's nothing there. The issue here, if you want to use Canva, you can do the pro for free as a teacher. There's an education program, but that's another step you would have to do because you have to provide your ID and all that kind of stuff to them to prove that you're a teacher. But you can deal with that situation. I don't like their text and stuff as much as I like Adobe. And some of their stuff is free. Some of the stuff is not free. I'm just going to hit that. Great. And I'm going to download that. And you'll see that download. You will have the ability to use the PNG there, transparent background, but you'll see that it's part of Canva Pro. So if you don't get the educator account for Canva, you're gonna have to pay for it to do something that Adobe Spark does for free, whether you have a education account or you don't. So Canva is a possibility. If somebody says, hey, you can do that in Canva, yes, you could. However, you need to go and make sure you get the education account there. All right. Now, I am going to actually log out of my school district account, and I'm going to do this. So, once you build all your stuff in here, and this is where we're going to kind of end up tonight, because we're going to go and show from Badger into Canvas rather, next week, or on Sunday. But I've got all my stuff built. How can I get those to my students efficiently? And so, Badger, which is info.badger.com, Badger with no E in it, Badger.com, even if you just put Badger, BADGR.com. This is the kind of the easiest way to get stuff into Canvas in terms of getting those your badges there. And so I'm going to go and just sign in. And you can sign in with Google. You can sign in with your school district account or not your school district account. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sign in with my not school district account. And where is the deal here? I hate when it does that. I hate when it does that. All right, cool. All right, you're gonna pop stuff in here. So this reason why I logged in as my hood myself is because I knew I didn't have an account. So read the terms of service. Say yes, I read them. Continue. Awesome. So kind of what Webbs was talking about. That badge is telling a story. Really, really kind of powerful idea, and they kind of lead with that. All right. It also verifies skill. So having a situation, Webbs has a security badge
certification
that says she has passed a certain certification to say that if someone asks me about certain securities X, Y, and Z, this tells you that I am verified. I know what I'm talking about. Go ahead,
LinkedIn has started to do that. So if you pass certain tests or if you take certain courses on, now it used to be lynda.com, now it's tied in with LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, or like people can essentially vouch for you and say you have certain skills. LinkedIn and really any social media is a great example of those octalysis and elements.
Facts. So Your kids don't need to have a backpack inside here, but if you're a teacher and you're taking courses in which somebody's going to give you badges, having a backpack and then counting badges is kind of a cool thing. This is what we're going to be focusing on for the last 10 minutes of our show today, is creating awarded badges as an issuer. So an issuer is someone who issues badges. Webbs, looks like you're going to say something. Go ahead.
No, I was yawning.
Okay. So here we go. Fine, dandy, whatever. I'm going to click my badger up here. And right now I have no badges. I have not earned anything from anybody at all. I'm going to come up here to where it says issuers. And I'm going to click there. And I've got no issuers. No one that I have authorized in order to create badges. So I'm going to say I'm going to create an issuer. Now, you could put an image of yourself if you wanted to. So say I'm going to go and I'm just going to type. Not chocolate. That's the one I want. Bada bing, picture of myself. Mike Lang, website, www.intelligenthoodlums.com. How's somebody going to contact me? That's the email, description. I'm a issuer type dude. All right, wonderful. I agree. You could read that. I read it before. I read enough of it before I got bored. So you want to deal with that situation as well. I'm going to create my issuer. Great. So 0 badges, 0 awards of those badges. And that gives you the ability to create a badge. The other thing that this allows me to do is say, I can create staff as well. So say you and your grade level are going to go and be doing and you don't want to have a situation where everyone is doing their own badges. You want to kind of collaborate and do some badges. This is a way that you can go and add staff to your situation and add those people as editors and whatnot like that. Webbs.
I just had a thought, like, a lot of schools are doing, like, the houses now, that kind of thing. You know, maybe the first badge they get is every kid in your grade or class or whatever gets their house badge.
Facts.
It's also a great culture and team building thing, especially if you do it as a grade level or even as a school, if you can coordinate that, because then kids can compare badges. And if they're in the school for that and you maintain that for the entire time, like, their collection will grow and grow.
So once you become an issuer, then you can create badges. And it's just, did you make the badges before? If you made the badges before, you're good to go. Create badge. You're going to drag and drop or upload the badge. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to go right on to that that folder full of badges that I created and upload it. So there's my badge. That dragon badge goes up there, and I'm going to say, what is that badge? Flame tested is what I'm going to call it. Summarize what this represents. You have successfully defeated all your math problems for the week. Great. Got that badge. It tells you, yo, upload them in PNGs. That's another reason why we want to save them in PNGs outside of Adobe Spark. So upload them in PNGs. Great. So the other cool thing about this is you have a public page where other people can sit there and see what badges that you've created, which is awesome. Then earning criteria. What does this person, what do I have to do in order to do this? All right. You have in order to be flame tested, you have braved the...
That'd be kind of cool, because if you share your issuer public page, then kids can, like, aspire to get certain things and kind of know what the road ahead looks like.
And defeat and bested the evil dragon fractor. All right, cool. So in order to be flame tested, you brave the mathematics lava field and bested the evil dragon fractor in less than 3 tries. Let's say that. Great. Cool. They know they have 3 times to do it. Wonderful. Great. Explain what the learner has to do. If you want to link it to a website, you can do that. Hit the preview button. That's what it's going to look like. That's awesome. If you're somebody who's fancy dancy, you can use Markdown in order to put that inside there as well. Great. Other thing you can do is if you've got an educational standard that you want to use. So if this is a standard, you got some standard from the NVAX or whatever, you can add that standard to the NVAX to that deal as well. So you have that ability. Tags, any keywords. I'm going to use math right now. I'm going to use fractions. So if someone else is looking for something dope about Fractor, the evil math dragon, you got that deal. You can also, in terms of scarcity, I can set an expiration date. I can say you can only get this one for 2 weeks, and after that, you don't get it anymore or whatever. I'm not going to add an expiration date. I'm just going to create badge. So once the badge is created, great. My criteria is there. The tags are there. I can view that on my public page. I can delete it. If I've issued this award before, I would have to revoke the badge from the people I've issued it from in order to delete it. And also duplicate it. I can go back and edit it anytime I want. The awarding of the badge, I can do that. I can award the badge from Badger. I don't need Canvas. So if you're someone who's like, hey, I'm just using Google Classroom, you can do the same thing. If I hit that award badge button, I just need the kid's email address. I put the kid's email address in it, it sends them the badge. So,
by the way, the duplicate function is sick because then if you're doing those scaled things where it's just a little bit of tweak of the criteria, then you can just duplicate it, swap out the image, and then tweak the details. You don't have to keep retyping it every time.
Facts.
I highly recommend, by the way, that you get some sort of like text expansion thing for this because I feel like it would be helpful.
I'm not fancy dancing like you, Webbs.
I know. It saves me so much time.
So email address, you throw the kid's email address in there. You're going to have access to the kid's email addresses, so you're good there. It's going to have the date of the issue there for you. Narrative, you can go and give the kid their kudos. You did awesome today, and you did X, Y, Z, and da-da-da-da-da. Great. Evidence, you can also update. If you screenshotted the kid's work or something like that, you can add the evidence to it. This is great for the grown-up to say, oh my God, you got this badge, and look at, I see that you got this. This is your online refrigerator of your stuff that you did, Bob. Great. Again, if it's going to be an expiration date, you can add that as well, and you can award that badge. You can also bulk award it. So, drop your CSV file of all the kids that did that. If you don't know how to configure it, download the sample CSV file and just take their information out and put your own information inside there. All right. So uploading the file, it'll show you how to change the columns and stuff. You can just download their file. It keeps this really, it stops you from having to build it that way. Just download the sample and just add your own information in there. So you can do this without having to use Canvas at all. On Sunday, we will go through taking your Badger situation. You have to link the accounts inside of Canvas, and then there's some stuff in the modules you have to do. It's tedious, not difficult. It's just tedious, and you gotta like make sure it works. But other than that, it's not that big of a deal. And so if I go to my public page, great. Public, flame tested is there. Everything's there, and they use open badges, and open badges is just essentially they're saying that this is a format of digital badging that is efficient, it's safe, it's it's official and whatnot, it's verifiable. Hey, this is not somebody who's selling you a bill of goods. So I'm assuming the badging agency, as I will call them, that gave Webbs the security certification, if I were to look them up, they would say, yep, if you pass our assessments, you can guarantee that that person is competent enough to do whatever services that they are offering you in the realm of security. Webbs, anything?
Hopefully, like even if you aren't going to use Badger, some of those octalysis things, you start to notice those out in the world, out in the wild, and see how you can apply those same things to your classroom. So again, like meaning for one, so having a narrative, having some continuous higher purpose to serve. That kind of relates to what we were talking about a few weeks ago when we during the let them think cake episode. Yeah. Like have some specific higher purpose, some meaningful work for them to do. Empowerment, being able to give them some sort of booster to help them out, or like a phone a friend kind of thing. That social influence piece where they can do quests as groups. They can friend other people. They get some sort of social treasure. Unpredictability, having a bit of randomness and entropy that keeps things interesting. Avoidance, having some sort of like negative outcome, and you have to use that sparingly, by the way. Scarcity is a really easy one to pick up. Like, oh, sorry, you can only do XYZ during this stream of time. Ownership, customizing things, having an avatar that they work on. And finally, accomplishment, which is the badges piece that we talked about, some sort of status points. And a lot of these are things that you may already use in your classroom. It's just about tweaking how much you use some of the other ones in order to make your work and stuff more sticky, making them want to be more interested in it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the badges situation, if you use Adobe Spark, you can get them done in 45, 50 seconds, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. All right.
Keep it simple.
Don't, it's no reason to go rainbow colors and stuff flashing. Black and white, boom, 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 kick out. Boom, 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 kick out. Boom, boom, kick out. Until you get to a point where, do the simple thing now so that next school year you can do the complex stuff. But get the simple stuff done. Go ahead, Webs.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would also say keep all your badges the same. If you decide to do a circle of text with an icon in the middle, do them all as a circle of text with an icon in the middle. Don't feel like you need to change it every single time. Just keep it circle of text with an icon. Change the color, change the font, but keep it circle of text with an icon in the middle. Or you could do a shape with words in the middle. That's fine. A shape with words and an icon. But don't vary from... Don't try to reinvent it every time you do a new badge. That's only going to be a recipe for frustration.
You could just do text. So if you just got to the point where you're like, I don't want to do icon, just do text. Math genius. Word wizard. Whatever. Save it as a PNG. Kick out the transparent background. Place it where you need to place it. So it doesn't even have to be a visual thing only if you don't want it to be. It could be just text. Until, again... to me, putting it in Badger allows it to exist so that next school year, I don't have to build this crap. It's already there. If I want to tweak stuff, I can tweak it, but it exists. I think the thing that we need to be very focused on now is getting ahead for next school year. Not that you're throwing this school year away, but saying in 21-22, I can really be ahead of the game, extremely ahead of the game. If I have these things in big modules built in Canvas, badges already created, a timeline of how my resources are going to be used and utilized, even if we have face-to-face school in 21-22, every kid has a device now, or the majority, 99.9% of the kids who are here in Clark County got devices. So even if we had the expectation that we start something in class and then you go home and use this Canvas course, you continue it, or you can go at your own pace, Bob, everything is already built for you rather than you taking your time and having to plan every Sunday night or whatever it is. If it's already done, it's done. This is a very, very much expending a lot of energy now to avoid expending a lot of energy later on. And I think that's something that needs to not be lost as we go forward. And that's something that I was hoping that our school district, I was hoping that your instructional coaches, I was hoping that some of the technology leaders would be hammering home right now that let's get well for next school year so that it's easy sailing when we get back, because Lord knows you're going to have students who are going to be needing a lot of different things when they come back face to face in 21-22, right? There's going to be some adjustment there. And if the kids can go at their own pace because things are already built, why not? Webbs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So I know everyone is itching to go see the fireworks that is probably no doubt happening on the school board meeting. So Sunday we're going to go and kind of look at Badger and Canvas, because Badger's already, that LTI is already built into your Canvas instance. It just takes you putting things together and making sure that they talk to one another. Again, it's not difficult. It's just tedious, and you got to do all the right places. And then unfortunately, for every course that you teach, you have to do it, every time. So it's not once you do it one time, it's connected. Nope, got to be connected to a different course for everything. So if you're a specialist like myself, you got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 courses. every last one of those courses have to be connected in order for that thing to work. So, nos podemos, as they say in Spanish. All right. So, God bless America. God bless my Basotho people in Lesotho. And we will see you on Sunday. Not bright and early, because it won't be bright and early. But and the next week will be the only full week of school this month. So, that's what we got to look forward to.
All right.
Hasta la pasta. We will holla when we holla.
Bye, everybody.